They're loud, guzzle way too much gas, and are quite simply out of place in modern times. But they're exciting, sexy, and great fun to drive. And financially, importing classic cars from the USA can be a really worthwhile business, no matter if they're European or American models.
When you're 15 years old, you love cars. When you're 40, you love cars. Yeah. So when you get older, you just hope you can buy them.
The most wanted cars are from sunny California. The Beverly Hills Car Club is probably the most famous classic car dealer in the United States. Here, there are always around 500 classic cars for sale.
I could look at the car for 2 seconds and know that it's a good car or it's a bad car.
Others bid for their dream cars at classic car auctions, sometimes mass events that are even broadcast live on TV.
All combined, you have about 350 people at an auction this size.
And those who don't want to import their U.S. classic car themselves can also find one at home, as there are dealers specialized in classic cars from the USA all around the world.
I've got the plates in my hand. I'm so excited to drive it away now.
They're collected, restored, driven, loved, or bought as an investment. The internet is the El Dorado for classic car bargain hunters. One thing is clear to all: the tendency is for prices to rise. After all, they're no longer in production, and for classic car lovers, these old vehicles just have that eternal glamour. Los Angeles, California. Nowhere else in the USA will you see as many sports cars and luxury limousines as here. A paradise for car lovers and classic car hunters. Alex Manos has made this his business. Originally from England, he's now very much at home under the Southern Californian sun. Alex is the founder of the Beverly Hills Car Club, one of the largest classic car dealers in the USA. He buys the old-timers all over America and sells them all over the world. He has between 400 and 500 cars constantly parked at his premises on an old factory site east of downtown Los Angeles.
We buy and sell classic cars in any condition, whether it's fully restored or whether it's a car that needs restoration. So that's very unique about our company, is that you don't just walk into a room of everything is perfect and just shiny.
Porsche, Ferrari, or Ford Mustang. From almost new to a step away from scrapyard. Some customers want to drive off in the car right away. Others are looking for a project car for the winter. They come from all over the world, but Alex sells most of his cars to Germany. He has his own theory on why classic cars are so popular.
If you're in a brand new sports car driving down the street, people are gonna be looking at you, giving you thumbs up. Some people, they're gonna hope you die. Some people, they're not gonna be the most happy for you. But in a classic car, whether it's a $2 million classic car or a $5,000 classic car, it brings people back to a time where they're a lot friendlier and nicer. And it's like when you get a thumbs up or, oh my God, I love that car. It's so genuine.
Alex always has around 30 Porsches, 40 Mercedes, and many other luxury vehicles in stock. He finds the cars through middlemen all over the USA, who are constantly on the lookout for him. For some customers, the choice of cars in his warehouses is almost too much.
They call me, say, hey, I'm gonna come and buy a Porsche. They come over here, they leave with no car, and they're like, I don't know if I wanna get a Ferrari, a Citroen, a Jaguar, a Mercedes, like what should I get? It's a real experience coming here. This is classic car heaven.
Although Alex is actually specialized in European models, he, of course, also has a range of original American classics. Demand among customers is especially great for so-called muscle cars from the 1960s and 70s with big fat engines, like Ford Mustangs.
We're in the room with some Mustangs. So we have a Mustang convertible. Right behind that is a Mustang coupe. Next to that is a Mustang Fastback. We sell Mustangs from $6,000, maybe for a 6-cylinder, $250. But for $50, it's gonna be cherry. I mean, probably we're selling it for $50, the guy probably spent $100 fixing it.
From the air, you can sense the sheer size of the Beverly Hills Car Club. Warehouse next to warehouse, and they're all full of old treasures. There are amphibian vehicles, young-timers, and restoration projects that will certainly need lots of love and care. Every car is sold as is, the general rule being bought as seen. There's no guarantee. But there's also something there for almost every income group. These Ferraris are similar models, but price-wise, they're worlds apart.
This car needs restoration. It's $154,500. Matching numbers, California car. Now you have this car, it's ready to go. If you've ever been to Rodeo Drive, you can now get in the car and go for a cruise. This one's ready to go. $279,500. There's a big difference in the price. It's over $100,000 difference. So if you're wanting to get the car and you're willing to do the work, there might be a savings for you if you know the right people, or if you want to do the work yourself. If you don't care, here you go. So this is rare. You go to any other classic car company, they're all going to be like this. 300,000, 280, you know, it's not going to be the opportunity of such a difference, and it needs work. That's what's rare about us here.
This Porsche Speedster is also rare. It's not restored. And that's exactly what makes it so special. The price is $239,500. Ready to go, and with patina.
I would love to drive this car to the supermarket. Anybody sees you driving this car, it's a Speedster. First of all, let's just get that out of the way. So it's like Jesus is driving down the street. Just that's on its own. And then it's not perfect. It's like even more like, wow, it's a Speedster and it isn't perfect. Every traffic light you come to, there's going to be someone saying, wow, oh my God, do you want to sell it? Especially because it's not perfect. You know, if it's perfect, people might assume this guy, don't ask him about if he wants to sell it. It looks like he just spent his whole life making it perfect. You know, don't bother him. But tell him it's amazing, but don't bother him. This one, I'm sure that every single person is going to go crazy.
New classic cars are delivered every day. And another vehicle transporter has just pulled in at the Beverly Hills Car Club. Of all the cars on its loading decks, only the white Mercedes Pagoda is for Alex Manos.
He's coming from Tennessee and from New York, and I don't know what other stock he said. So as he collected his cars, I guess that's just the way he ended up stacking them. But we always help him out and get things going and get them unloaded.
Before they can unload the white Mercedes, the other cars have to be moved off the transporter and out of the way.
Not really, unless I will do the same thing when I load it. So might as well do it twice, do it once.
For each car, the shipping agent gets between $600 and $1,000, depending on the distance. Now, there's only an old Camaro without an engine in the way of the Mercedes. The men want to let it roll off the trailer, hitched up to the white Pagoda.
Camaro has no motor. It's a lot lighter than the other cars. So we'll just back this one off, and that'll give them room, and we'll be able to just get the Mercedes out. Yep.
The SL was on the road from coast to coast for almost 3 weeks. And it's already being put up for sale online this evening.
First stop will be shipping and receiving, and off to detail from there, and our guys will clean it up.
First of all, the car has to be registered in the system. For this purpose, David hands over the Mercedes to Kevin. He and his colleagues are responsible for receiving and shipping all vehicles. Kevin also checks if the car is in the agreed condition, because Alex Manos buys most of the cars without viewing them first. But the boss has one major priority. Once the car is on the premises, it's got to be online as soon as possible.
By the end of the day, 1 or 2 hours, it would be on the website, ready to be sold.
A change of scene to Dallas, Texas. The convention center here is hosting one of the largest classic car auctions of the year. 1,200 historic vehicles will be auctioned off in the next 4 days. That's one every 2 minutes. The stage is set up, and 900 seats are just waiting for their car-crazy occupants. 15 cameras will broadcast everything live on television. And no wonder, this kind of auction is one gigantic show. The largest event organizer is called Mecum Auctions, a family enterprise that's responsible for organizing 15 auctions a year across the USA. Around 1,000 cars are sold at each one.
A massive traveling circus. We're on the road over 100 days a year. We sell over 15,000 cars. We're the world's largest collector car auction, and with sales over $400 million.
Before the vintage cars are allowed to enter the hall, their fuel tank contents are reduced to a few liters as a safety measure. Once done, the tank is then sealed. In the check-in area, each vehicle is then registered and also checked to make sure it corresponds to the registration and the vehicle documents.
Remember, the public vehicle identification number is here in the windshield. So this, we would check, car is wonderful or it's not so good, doesn't make any difference. I just want to make sure that the numbers are right, that they match the title, the ownership paperwork. So my job really is to either say, yes, it's good, or no, it's not good, and advise the company of that.
If everything is good, the car is admitted for auction. Michael Sweller attaches the ignition key to the steering wheel with a cable tie so it can't get lost. And right away, the next highly polished classic car rolls into the check-in. Anyone interested can bid by phone or on the internet, or they just show up in person. The organizers expect up to 2,000 visitors a day.
Standard registration for our customers is $100 if you pre-register. Otherwise, it's $200 here on site, and that gets you and one guest into our auction.
One such customer is Michael Hensley. He's looking for a small pickup. He's already selected a few vehicles on the internet. Here at the event, just like the other bidders, he's given a catalog of all the cars on offer.
You can see a lot of different cars firsthand, put your hands on them, look at them, instead of just looking on the internet. So just being able to look at them firsthand is great. And then, every now and then you find that one that you want and you get a chance to buy it and maybe take it home.
Michael Hensley has set his sights on pickups from the 1970s. Typical American trucks with a cargo bed. Many of them didn't survive their tough everyday lives as load transporters or delivery trucks. That's why well-preserved pickups in original condition can be found for less than $20,000. This black Chevrolet Cheyenne has really caught Michael's eye.
This is supposed to be a one owner, and everything looks to be in order as far as this is original seats, original paint, original radio. I mean, everything in this is original, and that's what I'm looking for. I want an original truck. So I'm just making sure everything matches up as it's presented. It's presented as an original, and it looks to be.
The car is a no reserve item, so no minimum price. Theoretically, Michael could buy this truck for $1. But a vehicle like this in such good condition and firsthand will attract a great deal of interest.
If it's sold for 10, that'd be a really good bargain. I expect it to go for, I don't know, they estimate 15 to 20.
So this is it. A golf cart pulls the Cheyenne to the big show stage. For Michael, the tension starts to rise, but the omens are not good. In front of the stage, a crowd of interested bidders is gathering around the pickup. Apparently, quite a few people here have their eye on this classic in its original condition. The auction begins. The first bid is already $10,000, and the price quickly rises to $25,000.
Original drivetrain Beverly engine with an automatic.
That puts Michael out of the race. His limit for the pickup was $15,000.
Brand new in the state of Texas.
Then an offer comes via telephone, and the anonymous bidder drives the price up to $30,000. That's too much for all the others. Nobody wants to bid $31,000, so the Cheyenne goes to the telephone bidder for $30,000. Michael hadn't reckoned with such a high price, but he takes his defeat in good spirit.
It's kind of bittersweet. I would have liked to have had the truck, but if I'd have bought that one, then my day would have been over and I'd been going back home. So now I get to look for another one.
Maybe he should have bid for this one, a toxic green 91 GMC that's been completely restored, lowered, and has a special paint finish. For many here, this one is obviously too special. The pickup changes hands for only $10,000, and the buyer didn't even get it for himself.
I was looking for a vehicle for my son, my 15-year-old. He wants something unique, you know? He don't like modern new stuff. He just likes the older stuff. And we brought cars to sell and just come over here, and I seen this truck, and it just jumped out at me. I like the color.
Which is definitely only something for fans of strong green tones. However, the car's condition is practically perfect. Everything looks new, not only the exterior, but the interior and under the hood as well.
I think I got the deal of the day, unless there's some more coming. And I'm gonna be there, hopefully, to get them. There we go.
On top of the $10,000, the auction organizers take a 10% fee. So the final price of the car is actually $11,000. Once the buyer's paid up, he can take the car home right away.
That can't be the gas, is it?
We're like kids, you know what I'm saying? When you're 15 years old, you love cars. When you're 40, you love cars. Yeah. So when you get older, you just hope you can buy them.
And that goes for him too, Gregory Pranti, because of his outfit, also known here as Captain America. He doesn't miss a single car auction in the whole of Texas, always sits in the front row, and keeps a record of every price. And he knows it's the early bird that catches the worm.
I try to be the first one to come in, yes. I get here like 5:45 in the morning, gates open up at 8 o'clock. And then the auction usually starts around 10 o'clock.
He's only bought a car at an auction once. For this eccentric, it's all about the special atmosphere and waiting for exactly the right opportunity.
So many cars that are so great, and you want to buy every one of them, but you have to know your numbers. And the idea is, if you stay calm, I figure if you stay calm and patient, you'll be just fine.
From Dallas to Wuppertal, Germany also has its lovers of beautiful cars from America. Dieter Thiel has been importing such vehicles for 30 years. Together with his partner, he runs a business offering the full all-round package.
We're service providers and help people who want to import vehicles. In our workshops, we do conversion work to allow them to be registered in Germany, or just general repairs.
Thiel has specialized in one vehicle type in particular, the first-generation Ford Mustang, Fastback, convertible, or coupe, as long as it's a V8. He imports these muscle cars and then restores them in his own Mustang workshop. Thiel always has around 20 different U.S. classic cars in stock. They cost between 90,000 and 140,000 euros, depending on the features. For the restoration and repair work, Thiel has built up a stockpile of parts that could well be the only one of its kind in the world.
This collection of parts is one of the largest spare parts stocks for this vehicle type in the entire world. And we buy up stocks all over the United States so that we have these parts.
Lots of these parts are no longer manufactured and therefore difficult to come by, especially in Europe. So Thiel hoards several thousand parts on almost 1,000 square meters. When customers buy a Mustang from him, the car is put together especially for them. They can choose color, engine, tires, and other features almost as if they were buying a new car. In the end, it's very hard to tell that a 50-year-old car is hidden beneath that shiny new exterior.
You could say that everything you see here in black is actually a newly made part. It's actually quite nicely color coordinated now, but the light parts are the original vehicle. It's very important for us to keep these structures because they are the cornerstones of the actual vehicle.
A brand new, old Mustang like this is quite expensive, but it's also guaranteed rust-free. On this model alone, Thiel's men have removed and replaced all these parts. That's about 200 kilos of metal. After welding, all the parts are sanded, primed, and fitted. 6 or 7 Mustangs come out of this little workshop every year. Once ordered, the delivery time is around 12 months. But then, every car is one of a kind. Back in sunny Los Angeles, California, at the Beverly Hills Car Club, the West Coast's largest classic car dealer, there's another truckload of cars standing at the gate. A light blue Mustang is being delivered. It's got one flat tire, which makes unloading a little complicated. The coupe in baby blue with a black vinyl roof only has the small 6-cylinder engine, which is much less popular and consequently less expensive than the famous V8. The car is expected to fetch between $11,000 and $12,000, which is considerably less than the over 100,000 euros for a completely reconstructed Mustang from the workshop in Wuppertal. The bargain Mustang is quickly fitted with a replacement tire and will soon go online for sale. As the next truckload of old treasures is already waiting, things have to move as fast as possible. Thoroughly and skillfully, the car is cleaned by hand both inside and out. Compressed air drives the dust from the road out of the engine compartment. Freshly polished, the car's now ready for its photo shoot. Before that, boss Alex Manos decides what asking price to put in the online ad.
For $11,000-$12,000, look at that. I mean, it's a lot of car for the money. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, look at that. For around 10 grand, you have a running and driving Mustang coupe.
Miguel Medina has been working here for 7 years. He started by washing cars, and today he takes photos of them for the website. At least 3 cars a day and between 70 and 80 pictures of each car. The best 30 go online. Anyone interested can ask for more pictures. They're intended to show as much as possible and not gloss over any problems.
This is pretty much the main picture that they will click on to enter the whole car, to see the whole photos that will be taken for the vehicle.
A photo session normally lasts 2 hours. The idea is to show all facets of each car. No matter whether the prospective buyer is in Japan or in Gummersbach, Germany, they should be able to see all the details exactly. Because the Beverly Hills Car Club doesn't do exchanges. You buy either as seen live or as seen on the photo. That's why Medina also takes pictures of every car from underneath. In spite of all the photos, many customers naturally have questions about the cars. And that's John Salas' responsibility. He's the personal contact for customers from all over the world, but he gets most of his calls and emails from Germany.
Fantastic. So I did receive your experience once. There's a tremendous amount of strong car culture in Germany. And so when it comes to dealing with German vehicles, Porsches, Mercedes, BMWs, that is one of our prime markets.
At the moment, in the warehouses, there are 36 Porsches alone, for $7,000 to $425,000. On top of the purchase price come the transport costs if the buyer has the vehicle shipped to Germany, and then import sales tax, and depending on the car's age, customs duties.
If we're talking, for a classic that's over 30 years old, a little above like 1,100, 1,200 euros, to really get it transported safely on a 40-foot container.
How about this really flashy Ferrari? A 1986 328 GTS for $49,000. This couple is very interested. They bought the same one as a new car many years ago, and their dream car of those bygone days is still their dream car today, even if it's not necessarily the most practical vehicle.
I had two little babies, children, and they used to ride with me in the front seat. I put seatbelts on both of them and take them to school, and just like it, and we had to get rid of it. And so now we're going to get another one. Now we're older.
The kids have meanwhile left home, and so the two-seater is now going to be used as a second car. But the negotiations are dragging on. The buyers want to haggle.
This is a very well-maintained car, and that's one of the things you want to look for. If you're going to buy a Ferrari or an exotic car, you want one that's been well-maintained by the previous owner. This one was.
And yet, despite this, the couple can't quite bring themselves to make a definite decision. And so the Ferrari is driven back into the warehouse. Dallas. Day 2 of the Mecum Classic Car Auction. This green 1969 Plymouth GTX is just being checked in. It's a very popular model among collectors, and the couple selling it know exactly what this rare sports car is worth.
My hope is somewhere around 60,000. Our reserve is at 50,000. It's a very original car, so I think that's unusual to see one like that.
Despite its 50 years, the car is in very good condition and has just over 50,000 miles on the clock. For sales with reserve, Mecum charges the seller a 10% commission, regardless of the sales price. After all, it's a huge show and a money-printing machine. The job of auctioneer is shared by 4 men. They change over every 30 minutes. Each of them has their own style. The trick is to stay relaxed.
$, $5 bid to $5 bid to bid, $5 bid to $5 bid to $5, 10, 15, 20 bid to $5. You're just throwing in a word that comes off your tongue easily.
The auctioneers are assisted by so-called ringmen. They sit spread out in the audience and whip up the atmosphere as soon as someone makes a bid.
45. I have 40 bids. Anybody get 40?
The big deal we do is we add a lot of energy and excitement to the auction itself. So when those bidders start to bid, we turn them in loud and proud and really try to add a lot of energy as the auction goes throughout the day.
It was only 10 years ago that classic car auctions began to turn into the gigantic shows they are today, because that's when they began to be broadcast live on TV. For this purpose, there are several broadcasting vans outside the convention center with a mobile control room and a crew of 40, just like any big sporting event. As a result, the small Mecum family business has grown into a multi-million-dollar empire. 12 cameras capture every angle. 3 presenters alternate throughout the show, which can last up to 6 hours, depending on what kind of cars are being auctioned.
We're given hours by the network, up to 24 hours sometimes over a week, down to maybe 6 or 7 hours for a particular event. And it's broadcast on NBCS and NBC Sports Network.
On stage now is the '69 Plymouth GTX, belonging to Wes Leasy and his wife. The price quickly rises.
45, 45, 46, 47, 48, 48,000.
The hammer finally falls for the collector's item at $57,000. But Wes had arranged a reserve, so he has to pay the 10% charge on the purchase price. After all of his other costs, for traveling for instance, he and his wife are left with around $50,000.
Yeah, there's a lot of sentimental value in it for me, but we'll miss it, but hopefully went to a good home.
Michael Myers also wants to, or has to, part with his dream car. He's putting his red '65 Mustang convertible up for auction. Selling a car costs a fee of between $350 and $750, depending on the day of week. Myers is auctioning his Mustang without a reserve, hoping to attract as many interested parties as possible.
But I am nervous because you never know. I don't know what's going to happen. If there aren't people interested, I could get 20,000. I do think the car is worth more than 26, but I think that's probably what it's going to go for, 26 to 28. About 3.5 years.
Myers also has to pay Mecum a provision of 5% of the purchase price on top of the basic fee. So now it's time for the red Mustang to go under the hammer. Myers doesn't want to miss it, so he jumps into a golf cart shuttle. The red muscle car is pushed across the stage and the bids shoot up to $26,000, just as the owner had predicted. It's all going according to plan. Then the telephone rings as well. Someone bids $30,000 for the convertible.
All right.
The hammer finally falls at $33,000.
$33,000 buys that '65 Mustang convertible.
Unbelievable. I was hoping to get 25, 26, 27,000. Watching the thing go up to 33. I mean, what a rush. It's so exciting. How great is that? I'm going to go out and have another beer.
But first, he heads for the payout desk. Sellers can find out who has bought their car backstage directly after the auction. And as soon as the buyer has transferred the money, Myers can pick up his check too.
They're going to wire the money in, so the money isn't here yet. But that's pretty cool. Somebody dialed in over, because you can dial in and buy cars. So that's pretty cool. And I'm not worried about it because these guys, I'm sure they pay.
For the Meekum family, these auctions are very good business. For every car sold, they cash in twice, from the buyer and the seller. The buyer pays Meekum a commission of 10% of the purchase price, or a minimum of $100, and the seller pays 5%. But to earn this, the organizers invest an enormous amount of time and effort.
So when you add up all the auctioneers, all the ringmen, all the other people all combined, you have about 350 people at an auction this size.
David Mitch has a job with a lot of responsibility. He writes the checks. Once a buyer has transferred the money, Meekum writes a check for the seller on site. In the 4 days here in Dallas alone, Mitch will write checks for almost $15 million. And one of those checks is for this white 66 Suburban Carryall. It's still the biggest series-produced sports utility vehicle in the world, with seats for up to 9 people. At over 5 meters long, a car like this needs one thing above all: space in the garage. Lenny High has just bought it for $13,000. He actually promised his wife a small SUV.
She really wanted that one over there. Like I said, I tried on that one, but I didn't want to go much higher. It's a little more luxurious, but she has a nice car now, so she'll be all right.
Lenny's only problem is that his wife doesn't yet know just how lucky she is. She's expecting something a little more manageable.
Yeah, she said, that is cool as heck. I like it.
So all's well that ends well. Luckily, parking spaces in the USA are bigger too. A $13,000 purchase price plus $1,300 in fees. For that money, it's still one hell of a lot of car. From Dallas to Wuppertal in Germany, where there's also a company specialized in the import and restoration of American classic cars, and in particular, Ford Mustangs. For Achim Brockhaus, a teenage dream is about to be fulfilled.
I'm just picking up my 67 Mustang. I've got the plates in my hand. I'm so excited to drive it away now. This is it. Great. I'm really happy.
It's been almost a year since the order. As the boss of several car showrooms himself, one thing was always clear. If it's got to be a classic, it has to be a Mustang with the horse.
Wow. What a fantastic sound. That's brilliant. Superb.
Although he works with luxury cars on a daily basis, a practically brand new 67 Mustang convertible really is something special. The car dealer wants to know everything about the vehicle. But from the outset, one thing was non-negotiable. There had to be a V8 under the hood.
For me, it's not a real Mustang with a small engine. I mean, in an American car, at least if it's a Mustang, you have to have the sound of an 8-cylinder in there. A 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder, which would also have been possible, just can't do it. Perfect. I just love it. Great.
Achim Brockhaus is by no means alone with his love of classic cars. There are currently over 430,000 vehicles with the historic registration plates in Germany, and the trend is growing.
Tschö.
Back to the home of muscle cars, the USA. Here in Los Angeles, California, German automotive expert Jens Diefenbach is combining his holiday with a visit to the Beverly Hills Car Club. He has bought a few Mercedes Pagodas in the USA in the past and restored them.
A car like this is worth 80 to 100,000 euros when it's sold in Germany, but it's got to be in perfect condition. So, take all the screws out, strip the paint, rebuild it, weld it, and put it all back together again.
What used to be a really lucrative business is no longer quite as attractive. The days of buying Mercedes classics in the USA at bargain prices are over. What might look like an attractive offer at first glance is usually a project you need to put a lot of work and money into.
The cars are 50 years old and they're rusty. So this is what I can look forward to. Cut this part out and weld a new one in. And then it's the way it was originally meant to be. It's better like that than if something's been smeared over it. The amount of work's the same.
That's why the car expert now wants to switch to American sports cars. He's just missed out on this Mustang Fastback. When he flew out of Germany 2 days ago, it was still available. Now it's sold for $30,000 plus the additional costs.
Up to a few years ago, the rule of thumb was 1-to-1 for converting into euros. If it cost $30,000, then when you got it to Germany, it was 30,000 euros. But it's more expensive now because of the dollar exchange rate. So now, as a rough guess, I'd say 35 to 38 by the time it's in Germany for a car that costs $30,000 here.
On top of the purchase price, there are shipping costs in the USA and to Germany, insurance, and 7% VAT on purchase price and transport costs. Meanwhile, another transporter drives up with yet another delivery for the car club. Transport manager Kevin Soto guides the driver in. A Mercedes SL is being delivered. This classic, however, is not roadworthy. That means the truck driver has to pull it off the trailer manually with a winch.
Once it's on the ground, then they're all done with their job. I give them their check, they give me a bill of lading, and that's it for them.
But the SL is still stuck on the truck, so the men bring in a tow truck. This vehicle is now going to tow the Mercedes off the truck and onto its loading bed. But that is by no means easy.
Every car has its own difficulty. It could be from a running car to a small car. Like right now you saw it hit, but now I gotta adjust the level for enough to come in clear, and when it comes down, bring the bed down so when it don't scratch anything.
Inch by inch, the SL rolls onto the tow truck. And after an hour, the job's finally done. The SL now goes through the same procedure as all classic cars arriving at the Beverly Hills Car Club. Checking in, washing, taking photos, selling, and getting it off the yard. The boss buys almost all the cars unseen. And sometimes a car isn't as described, like this Corvette that obviously has engine problems. The wrong carburetor has been installed. That's now a job for Chief Mechanic Francesco.
So you have to do it the old school. You have to do it a different way of diagnostic. Not like the newer car today, you have to put the plug in the diagnostic machine and you go from there. But here you have to use your brain.
Francesco comes from the Philippines, and that's where he trained as a mechanic in the 1960s. But there was nothing he could do for the Corvette's carburetor, so he modified a different one. The sports car's price tag is $8,950. It was built in 1978 and has the typical V8 engine, which will now hopefully start and make that unmistakable sound.
It's a carburetor cleaner, but to start it right away, I'm gonna make it also a starting fluid. That's it. Ready to go.
The ad for the Corvette will go online again tomorrow morning. Now it's given the coveted abbreviation MS by transport boss Kevin. MS stands for mechanically sound. For Francesco, that means he's finished for today. Car Club boss Alex Manos, on the other hand, is never finished. He's constantly on the phone buying more cars. Just where he finds them all is his professional secret. Alex practically spends his entire working life on the phone. He has 2 cell phones, just to be sure he can always be reached. That's enabled him to buy and sell over 10,000 cars in the last few years. The dealer has a keen eye for classic cars and knows exactly what to look out for.
I can look at the car for 2 seconds and know that it's a good car or it's a bad car. I think we bought it from the East Coast. I haven't seen it. It's been about a month. But just for my memory, I know that it's missing the soft top. Let's check. Okay, no soft top. It's a very original car. The reason I bought the car is because it has the spot welds on both fenders. Let's see. Yep. This is a sign of originality. The car hasn't been in an accident or hasn't been rusted. This fender, for example, this side, hasn't been replaced, hasn't been in an accident, wasn't rusted out, doesn't have an issue. It's a very safe asset to have to get to enjoy, and your money is safe there.
But the Mercedes is not going to be sold today. Every evening, the Car Club becomes a fortress. Thieves have often tried to break in here and steal one or more of the 500 classic cars, but as yet, unsuccessfully. Back to the car auction in the Dallas Convention Center. Saturday is the highlight of the week. 10 Plymouth muscle cars from the collection of Canadian car dealer Peter Swanson are up for auction today. And accordingly, interest is great. Swanson has been here for days holding talks with prospective buyers. The Canadian only sells the duplicates from his own collection of 60 classic cars.
I've got duplicates at home to these cars, so I'm not, even though I'm giving up some ones I especially like, I still have others at home that closely represent what I am selling today.
And to be perfectly honest, 50 cars isn't a bad collection either. Besides gaining more space in the garage, Swanson also stands to make a great deal of money.
Collectively, what's going to go out today is going to be over $1 million, yeah. Based on what I think the market values are, it's going to be, the whole collection is going to generate over $1 million.
Showed you a little bit of before.
Kicking off the auction is a 1969 Plymouth Barracuda with a rear spoiler, built for the famous Daytona racetrack. But the highest bid of $240,000 doesn't exceed the minimum price, so there's no sale. Has Swanson set his reserve too high?
Glad to bring her back to go to the States.
30 with the next one, however, a Plymouth GTX, changes hands for $181,500. And the other cars from his collection of classics also fetch top prices. Like this 71 Hemi GTX at $253,000.
Only built 19 of these with the automatic transmission in 1971. Yeah.
We saw the 426.
Now Peter Swanson allows himself a smile. Altogether, 7 cars have made him significantly more than his initial assumption of $1 million for all 10. 3 cars weren't sold at all. They'll be staying in the USA to be put up for sale at the next auction.
The U.S. is where the market is for these cars, and I know there's interest in those cars that did not sell. Now, whether or not these guys will step up and pay what they're worth, that remains to be seen.
Whether at auction in the USA or on the internet, people buying one of these cars have to know just how much they can spend. Alexander Wege from Cologne does. The advertising specialist wants a wild horse with a V8.
I'm looking for a Mustang, ideally a convertible. It's always been a childhood dream.
He wants to invest a maximum of 50,000 euros. Dieter Thiel offers a number of options. Anyone buying a car in the USA online can either import it themselves or make use of his service. For a flat rate price of 795 euros, Thiel organizes the transport and deals with all the formalities. However, it takes about 3 months before the car is on his premises. And then it has to get its German TÜV certificate. Those who don't want to wait that long can simply buy a car that's already registered. But that, of course, is more expensive.
You've got to weigh up what you want to invest, so it could be a good choice. Think it over a bit, look at it again and sleep on it. But I'm already quite taken with it.
In pursuit of their old-timer dreams, every classic car lover should try to keep a cool head. There's so much on show at the big Mecum auctions, where a car is sold every 2 minutes. But only one person is guaranteed to make a good deal, and that's the organizer.
We sell over 15,000 cars. We're the world's largest collector car auction.
And those who don't know the tricks of the trade can quickly underestimate the hidden costs lurking beneath the shiny paintwork. The same also goes for the Beverly Hills Car Club. Here too, every car is bought as seen, which means there's absolutely no guarantee.
It's a real experience coming here. This is classic car heaven.
And you have to be prepared to make fast decisions, because the really good bargains are only here for a few days before they're snatched up. In Germany, a number of companies have specialized in the import and restoration of classic cars from the USA. The package has its price, of course, but includes full range service, a guarantee, and a certain reassurance that your dream classic is not just desirable, but also reliable.